All right, folks, Poptoberfest. That's right. This is a first watch for me. I had not seen this. It had been on the to-do list, and I know the Gourd King. Now, Papa Pumpkin is in the house. That's right. I got the gourd in the house, and we're going to talk about The Host, the 2006 South Korean film that I had not only heard positive things. So I was very anxious to
hmm
have this on the to-do list, and I thought, well, Gord and I can connect. And I don't know. I can't call him Papa. He's so much younger than me. But how you doing, my
I
brother? What's
mean,
going on?
Gourd is fine. I'm just putting the name there to promote the new
The
channel.
channel's name is changed, and
The
yeah,
AKA is still in the description on the
yes,
channel.
yes, we will try to do our best there. It is his Twitter handle as well, so make sure you connect to him. Thanks, you, man. Thanks, man. Good having you back, man. Hang out a little bit.
Oh, I'm very glad to be back. I was missing these chats and these first time watches, and this is definitely a movie I don't mind talking about. I have some thoughts on this movie.
Yeah, I got a feeling that I might have some hot takes for people out there. I don't know it'll be a hot take for someone like you, Gord. We tend to share some of our analytical brain, analytical minds very similar. I have I guess we're gonna have to compartmentalize how to break this into pieces so that we can kind of do it in chunks. So,
What you
for
have is a hot take. I mean, given this movie's reputation, we might actually share views on this
all
because
right,
this
that's what
movie
I'm
has,
thinking. If you,
yeah, it has a. I would say before Godzilla minus one, this was probably the most critically hailed monster movie since Jaws. This is a stellar
wow, okay,
reputation.
yeah, I don't think it's anywhere in the caliber of its
Mm-mm.
reputation.
The Host is a monster. The scariest monster movie since Aliens. Madly entertaining. The best monster movie of the 21st century. A dream fusion of Jaws and Little Miss Sunshine. There's never been a monster movie like it. Truly thrilling. A knockout monster movie. Sensational. One of the greatest monster movies ever made. You must see this movie. From start to finish, it just kicks butt. The Host. Rated R. Now play.
Long story short, folks, you have what you have seen in some footage, maybe, is preceded by a U.S. military base, like a medical facility, and the American guy in charge is ordering the Korean assistant to dump all the formaldehyde into the water system. And even though there's a cautious little warning, hey, it all runs to the Han River, it's like, yeah, we don't care, whatever, pollute, do whatever you got to do. Quick little snippet of some fishermen finding something weird that we don't quite know, but they make allusions to it being abnormal. And then we jump ahead again and have sort of this creature that attacks this little beach front area that is near where the guy there, the blind guy, is very important. We keep in mind he and his family, his dad in particular, run this little food bin, like a vending house hut type thing by our standards.
Yeah.
He's played up as a little bit. His name is Park. He played up at Gangdu, the Park family. He's played up as kind of a nitwit. He kind of nods off a lot, kind of weird things there. He has a couple family members. One's kind of like a loser college student that's now a drunk, and then an overachieving uh, uh, sister as well, who's like an Olympian archer. She's like a professional archer. And then
hmm
the dad is sort of like trying to hold things together a little bit with this sort of background. And this giant creature comes out, attacks people, and in this melee, he loses his daughter. They kind of fall down, and when he grabs somebody, ends up grabbing the wrong person. And it's basically just a monster creature movie. Here's a little shot of the creature, and you have this little sequence of events. And I will admit, this has been touted as this great achievement.
Something is ready to start feeding.
Why didn't you contact the military, a human rights organization, something?
One of the greatest monster movies ever made. The Host. Rated R. Now playing.
I will say, the first part of the movie in the setup, I'm enjoying for the most part. We'll get to my hot issues with it because they kind of
hmm
overlap with the part that I do say that I'm enjoying. In other words, I'm kind of a bit of a hypocrite. I enjoy it, but I have issues, and it only gets worse as the movie goes on. But Bong Joon-ho, he does a really good job of crafting a film. The characters are interesting, they're different, they're dynamic. I think that he has pulled off. yeoman's work with some of the special effects. I think they were actually very, very solid. Maybe that's why the Godzilla minus one reputation in that kind of class, which I think is not too unfair with the budget, but I don't know that it's as great and glorious as maybe I kind of expected. I expected more eeriness, but it's so much of it's in the daylight. I don't know how this would have been creepy at all in a theater. It was like, oh, it's all
No.
mostly daylight shots. So from a monster movie effect, even like 'cause I recently did a video like we were talking about Lake Placid. I'm like, hey, Lake Placid in a theater was kind of eerie because like you didn't know what was going on. It was dark and it was now it had comedic elements. This movie doesn't really have comedic elements like that, and it does get
Well,
bogged down.
it attempts them.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say
Quite a few.
it gets bogged down with trying to have them and having some other characters and some levity it's supposed to kind of be thrown in there. So, did I miss anything really on the synopsis of the movie?
No, as far as the synopsis goes, I guess maybe a bit more emphasis on like, okay, so after the creature's initial attack, they're like the father and the son, who's the main character, they get quarantined, and then the brother and the archer sister, then they get brought in, and so the quarantine becomes kind of a major element to it. Although, I think it's kind of, I don't like the way it's utilized personally. I've seen this movie actually 3 times over the years. I think I saw it for the first time around 2009, 2010, a few years after it came out. Um, I've periodically watched it every 5 or so years up to here, trying to see in it what, I guess critics saw in it and what a good deal of fans have seen in it. I don't like it. I don't think this is a good movie. I really don't think it's a good movie. And granted, it's possible that how I might end up ultimately scoring it might be affected by just a supreme lack of enjoyment. I find it highly unsatisfying as well, but yeah, this one just doesn't do it for me whatsoever. And I generally agree. I think this filmmaker is, he did Parasite. That's, I think a little bit overrated, but still a good movie. He did Snowpiercer. I like Snowpiercer.
Hmm. Agreed.
I have heard Memories of Murder is excellent. I still haven't gotten around to watching that yet.
Yeah, likewise.
But this is one where I think it's kind of messy, and I think it's a very novel concept. I like the design of the monster. CGI hasn't aged spectacularly, but it's still, I think the design makes up for it a bit because it's a pretty cool design. But I'm kind of like you. I think the first part of this movie is pretty good. I don't think it does a good job of tension building in the monster scenes, though, at all. Things just tend to kind of start happening from scene to scene, and there's not a lot of buildup, and it ends up kind of feeling very disjointed at times, or it takes a few minutes to even realize where you are with certain characters and maybe how much time has passed. So,
yeah, the other part to elaborate on what you were saying with the synopsis, I didn't really cover the daughter. So the daughter was scooped up in that opening beach sequence, and spoiler, she's not dead. She's actually alive, where this creature is dumping the things. It's not actually completely devouring them, and it's dropping them off, saving food for later, presumably. But she survives that, and she ends up hiding in this little sewer pipe. She's able to make one phone call on her cell phone before the battery is dead, which reaches the dad in this sort of quarantine area. So he's convinced that she's alive, and there's this big hunt by the four of them to find her. And then that's the other sort of like the adventure puts them in sort of like they got to go out, and that's how they're going to have cross paths, so to speak, with this creature throughout this entire movie, is because they're trying to save this young girl. Now, what is interesting for me is how little things make sense all along the way, from the get-go all the way through the movie. So overall, folks, I'm just gonna we're just gonna cut to the chase, and we're just gonna dive into heavy spoilers and probably a lot of hot takes, because it's just I don't want to beat on a movie for an hour. I'd rather just cut to the chase. That's the general movie. I think it's praised for. I think the effects work fine enough. Again, I think that the problem of what they don't look right is because they're shot during the daylight. Almost everything is in the daylight. There's a rainy scene which works better, and there's some shots that look fine. They also, having being the creature is very like elastic and gymnastic. It'll grab like a girder underneath an overpass and swing itself. And it all seems very hard to get around. Like, how is this operating?
Yeah.
But I don't hate it either. Like, it feels like it should be more fish like, but it operates more like a squid or an octopus. So you don't quite know what you're doing, but I will agree with Gore 100%. Its design and all of that, I think, is what moves it along pretty well. And I will say the characters they all have an arc, which is kind of a lost thing. Like, they have an arc. I don't necessarily always like their arc. And I also don't think that they're necessarily redeemed people, but I at least can acknowledge they have something that's happening to them. So those are positive elements of this movie. When we get into like the social political elements and some of the other things, that's where I think the movie really falls apart. I don't get it and I don't like it. And
Yeah.
then the stupidity of it and the stupidity of the characters and what we're supposed to buy into is where the movie melts down for me. Like, it does not, we're like Parasite territory. Like, it becomes like, okay, I do not understand the hoopla with some of these things. So is there anything there that we need to parse out a little bit before we get deeper into
Yeah,
some of my,
I guess I would say with the character arcs, like, because I tend to agree, it's like there is a through line from point to point with each character where it's like, okay, they've clearly gone on at least something of a journey, some a little less than others. But I guess my issue with their arcs is they're often like it often doesn't feel like there's a ton of substance to each one, with maybe the exception of the family patriarch. I think his arc is pretty well defined, up to the point where he's no longer in the film. I guess major spoiler alert, of the main family, he does die. But I more or less am like, okay, he has a relatively defined arc. So does the father, who's the main character. His he's got one too. Although he's surprisingly, I feel a bit underdeveloped. I don't feel like we get a ton of information about him at times, where I'm like, I would have liked a little bit more focus on him. So it's, but I mean, at the same time, you still can draw a line from beginning to end with each one. It's like, okay, there's, they're doing something with each one of them. It's just, I at times feel like it gets a little bit messy and disjointed with them, to where it's not always clear what they're doing until you get to the end of them.
yeah, I really do agree. And I do think that there's one line in one scene where he's kind of talking about their childhood and he was like a drunk. He'd stay out all night. So he's kind of like just loser dad, basically, is all we're trying to get out of it. And it comes to a head where he can self-sacrifice himself to save everybody. It's actually kind of cheesy and it's really at the fault of the son anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there would have been. I almost wish that like the drunk college kid was the one sacrifice. It would have made more sense to lose and keep the dad around at least a little longer, and then sacrifice him later, maybe. Because I just, yeah, it's like I said, it's an okay story arc, but it wasn't great, and that's I think where we kind of definitely agree. To Let's get to the main character. So the main character really centers around this guy, and what happens is we end up defying science and we end up defying anything that makes any logical sense. So in the beginning, having like the loser guy who loses his daughter and he's kind of traumatized from that, but he doesn't seem to like, no one wants to believe him about stuff. Like the daughter could still be out. There's this phone call that he can kind of get. And they're like, well, we just don't trace phone calls. We just don't do that. And it's just
Yeah.
like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Last call. That's like, you can't look up the last call on the phone.
Yeah, it makes no sense that there would be a call from a number that would be that. I mean, it's not like you trace it. Just forget about tracing it. Just the fact that you would at least believe, well, I got a call from this number, so clearly she's not dead yet. Can you go look for her? The other thing too that happens in this movie, which makes no sense, which kind of overarching the whole thing, and we're going to kind of go through now, is if anything like this actually happened, the South Korean presence is only there like a contagion. They have no military presence. There's no police or military that would be like trying to find this creature, which hundreds of people have seen and exists. Like, it's not like even in question in the movie that this thing actually exists. The fact that they're going to let it continue to kill people because they're, quote,
Yeah. It's
hiding.
so bizarre that there never seems to be any attempt to
None.
catch this monster, and I'm like, that we do that for regular animals. If a regular animal so much as bite somebody, catch the animal, call the vet. there never seems to be an attempt to go after this monster, and no explanation as to why. And it's just like, are y'all ever gonna catch this thing? And then there's the quarantine. Kind of seems like it gets lifted, or I guess there's the
Well, that's
quarantine,
what.
and then
Yeah.
there's the people getting sheltered, and it just kind of seems to end abruptly.
Right. So two parts to that. One, you're 100% right. I go back to the story here in Florida, which was extremely tragic. Like the little girl at Disney, and an alligator got her. They hunted this alligator down to kill it. And there's signs now everywhere about don't get in the water. It's like you're in Florida. You should kind of know that. She's a little girl. Her parents weren't watching her. But they went and hunted this alligator down. He's just in the wrong place. Like it wasn't his fault that he's just in. He doesn't know what Disney property is. That's just where he was, right? So the idea that you would have this creature that attacks these people on a beach. By the way, this wouldn't be the only family missing people, by the way. There's at least, we see on screen regularly, at least 8 to 12 that this creature has kept. Presumably they're dead, but we find out they are. But those family members would be like, well, we don't have their body. We don't know where they're at. Where are they? So it wouldn't be even remotely like a conspiracy theory or anything like that. So the fact that the military was presented as the villain in the opening sequence, and we'll get to more of that. And then there's this whole lack of any sort of thing that only this family is interested in hunting this thing down. Makes such it's so remarkably stupid that 4 inept humans, other than the archer, who by the way constantly getting dismissed through the whole movie. I don't even know how many lines this poor girl has, but it's constantly like she'll have her bow and arrow. They're just like, put that away. It's not useful right now. They got like shotguns and stuff. The gunplay in this movie is terrible and completely unbelievable as well. It's just all of that is the part where I don't get the praise of the movie from that part. Like I get when I watch a stupid movie like Anaconda or like I mentioned Lake Placid, I see a sheriff and I see people who are like, oh, let's try to find a way to catch or kill it. Like I get the concept. That doesn't appear to be the situation in this movie. And I don't know how everyone can be so forgiving of that major plot element in this film.
Yeah, it's like there's when I tell when people I've talked to about this movie, whether they've seen it or not, like they'll ask, because they know I don't care for it. They're like, well, is it just a bad idea? It's like, no, there's actually a lot of good concepts in it. It's just none of them feel all that fleshed out. It's like, okay, this family escapes and they equip themselves to hunt it, and then they just fail at it. And it's like, oh, okay. They don't really go into very much of like how they're planning to go about this. There, like we've reiterated a couple of times, there's no military hunt for this, which really begs the question why they ever let like regular people out in the first place. They're not even sectioning off like
Correct.
where it was spotted or anything like that. It's just there is nothing that the governments are doing, which is especially strange because at the beginning of the movie, the primary person that gets news coverage for dying to this monster is an American soldier.
Right.
Which you would think if that's the case, then there would be some kind of joint effort or at the very least pressure from the American government. Like, hey, you need to catch this thing. You need to go after this thing because, back in the States, there's people who are kind of pissed off about this.
But they create a plot. But they create a plot hole with that because then they cut away to that little newscast and they say, oh, he didn't actually die. He's missing an arm and this one's got a rash on him or something. Like, isn't that the same guy they're talking about? Like he's supposed to be that guy?
Yeah. I think he dies later. Or something
Dies
that,
later. So again, it creates more contradictions to what they're going for. And what I don't understand, because they have these shots and where they hold up well or not, you have this concept of what has happened in this general area. What I don't understand is, again, we can fix movies with like one simple thing. Gourd, tell me where I'm wrong. All you had to do to fix this piece of it was to say, because they got this phone call from this daughter that no one believes is legit or didn't research at all, the creature had gone somewhere else and attacked like, a mile down the way. I mean? So that's the area where everyone's focused, where it was. It's the theory would be that it's moving, right? And that they are going to where this phone call was, thinking they're going to find the daughter, but that's like its nest. So at least the search could be existing over here, but the family is going to go over here. They don't even. It's that simple to have fixed. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous to folks. If any of you guys love this movie, explain to me what I'm missing. It seems so obvious to me that the military, police, whatever, would have some sort of a containment of a creature that's literally eating and killing people, if not harming them by just flooring them around. and instead we're like, oh well, they're eventually going to knock some sort of toxic gas on them. They're going to drop this yellow Agent Yellow stuff. We're like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
and
who
also
cares? Yeah,
there's another element to this, which on one hand is used well, but on the other hand works against the movie as far as the cell phone thing goes. Okay, so if anyone doesn't know this, we've been able to track cell phones for decades. That's not
yeah,
new technology or anything. It's quite easy because
yeah,
they're bouncing signals from towers and stuff, so it's kind of easy to triangulate where a cell phone signal comes
right.
from. But so when we finally see the little girl who's kind of trapped in this lair, one of the things we see her doing is when you see the monster regurgitating. She at first thinks it's going to be bodies and ends up being bones, meaning it's digested things it's eaten. But her initial thing she says is that, please let it be somebody with a working cell phone, which the entailment of that seems to be because, like, there was the first time she called and then her phone died. And then later in the movie, her sister gets a text from her. And you're like, well, I thought the phone was dead. But then when she says, please let it be someone with a working cell phone, you're like, oh, okay, so she has done this before. And that's probably how she texted the sister. And I'm like, okay, that's actually kind of smart.
Yeah,
But then again, it's like if they had checked that guy's cell phone initially, it would have been very easy to trace where she was and thereby find the monster. And it's just there is no effort whatsoever to do this. It is so bizarre to me. And the whole thing with the viral outbreak, they never really specify why they come up with that story. Like initially you think, okay, that kind of makes sense. The monster might be a carrier of some kind of virus or something. We find out later in the movie that the virus isn't exactly real. You're like, okay, so what are they just covering up that they got it wrong, or are they trying to utilize this for a bigger purpose or something?
well, I'm under the
Never.
impression they're trying to cover up the fact that, like, the Americans are so the Americans are played as the villain very subtly, in my opinion, in that they're the ones who said, hey, pour the formaldehyde down the drain. They're the cause of this creature kind of happening. And they both the scientists are American. So you feel like the Americans are helping massage the narrative into this viral thing and to hide the fact that they're the reason that exists. Like it's really not about any of that. So it's all done so loose that I don't know why people read into this as substance, because the only other part that's element is some sort of environmentalism metaphor that dates back to around the 2010s to 2012. Like, oh no, I'm sorry, this is a 2006 movie. You saw it in 2010. So I don't get 20 years ago this would have been environmentally protests. I don't understand why this was such a weird topic to have him sort of like hang his hat on, this environmentalist, make a mutant monster kind of thing or whatever. I know there may have been stories where things are fished out of the water all the time, but it feels like a weird thing. He's trying to shoehorn too many things into this monster movie. And this is one of the things that did not work ever, because all these morons are out here protesting this Agent Yellow thing, even though we all know there's this giant creature that's killing people, Gord. Like,
Yeah, and it would seem like if you're actually trying to hide some number one, I mean, it's like the idea of like them trying to quote unquote hide people
mm-hmm,
like dumping stuff into the river, like, oh my
right.
gosh, they're gonna catch us. I'm like, companies have been doing that for so long that it's one of those things that there's not going to be a big public outcry if you find out, oh my gosh, the companies are dumping chemicals. Like, yeah, they do that all the time. I don't think a government would be super duper worried about that. They would contain the situation, aka killing the monster. They would do that, would be the priority. They would get it over with, kill the monster, everything's glossed over. That really would not be that big a scandal because it's kind of something we know goes on all the time anyway. So I'm like, it feels like because when you see the measures they ultimately take to do the cover up, like they lobotomize the main guy.
Oh yeah. I want to get
That's
to that.
why they do it, is because they're like, oh, he hears that the virus wasn't real or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, it's like, did you really even have to do that? I don't.
Yeah,
think
let's put a pin in the
that.
lobotomy thing, because we got to come to
Yeah.
that in a minute. But this quarantine thing I don't want to let go of, because it's like we see in countless things. Let's take like the recent Godzilla MonsterVerse stuff. Like when they quarantine this area, is the people have to sneak in there. Like it would have been complicated to say, all right, well, this is kind of quarantined off. The monster, the army and militaries, they're down here, and this family needs to sneak into some sort of quarantine. There's just people running around all over the place, and I don't know how this movie wasn't cited as an example during all of the lockdowns and all of the hyperbolic reactions to the viral
Mm-hmm.
outbreak of 2020, because it shows that they don't really take, they're lying to you. There's people running around without masks on. There's people just, it's like, it's such a loosey goosey sort of thing. I feel like he's either really sloppy on how he's handling this, or he's sort of like mocking that people will buy into this because the governments do it, if that makes sense. But I think
Yeah.
your point is more taken too. If they had made it like a corporation, this would have played well. So that's the normal bad guy in a movie. It's like some evil corporation that poured the chemical down the drain. Instead, it was a military and U.S. thing. Because I think that plays better to the South Koreans, but I don't think it plays well to us as much as some of the other stuff does. So
Yeah, and I know that from what I've read, because I did a little bit, because I was like, okay, there's some elements to, or some themes that you can tell he's trying to shoehorn in. I think it's done very sloppy. But one of the things apparently there was an attempt to shoehorn in was the whole idea of WMDs in Iraq and that being, false and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's not done particularly well, because that was the whole idea of like kind of subtly blaming the U.S. government. It was along the lines of trying to push in a theme like that. And I was like, yeah, you didn't do that very well. I
yeah,
don't
it's not
think.
done well at all.
Because, I mean, you really didn't. I was like, if you wanted to do that, you probably should have included more stuff from the American government. But to be perfectly honest, I think if they had just kind of focused on the monster element, like you could have done the initial quarantine thing to give the family a reason to need to actually escape, but you could
Mhm.
even cut that out and just make it about people trying to hunt this thing down, or even the government just saying you all need to get out of the way. We're the ones who need to hunt this thing down. It's like if you really had just focused on the monster movie element and the idea of killing it, I think it'd have been a much better film.
100%. And I'm actually was even more frustrated. I didn't do a ton of reading myself, but I did do a little bit. And he had cited, the director Bong had cited all the classics that make sense, Jaws, Alien, The Thing,
Mm-hmm.
as an inspiration. I'm like, but you didn't make that movie. You didn't make that movie like a little bit. You
Yeah.
took this weird concept of some sort of kaiju movie you think you're making, and then you watered it down with a really poorly constructed contagion slash metaphor for anti-military and government lies type thing. Did no one in the room, and all the people that are loving this movie so much, why again did the military not take control of the situation? And then why would you not just have them looking in the wrong place and this family has to just, we didn't need, so I think we said it. I'll say it again. I'm okay with the initial quarantine, like
Sure.
investigate. Hey, by the way, are you exposed to some alien or something? We don't know. Obviously, there's hundreds of people. He had blood splattered on his face, so it makes more sense that we might treat him differently in his family. Fine.
Sure.
But then the movie just falls apart with this faux viral nonsense, the public not, and it just goes on. The other thing too, I think you said this, so help me think. Didn't you have a problem with the lack of a timeline? Like how long has it been?
Yeah,
How
because
long could?
because okay, so there's the monster attack. Which, by the way, the monster attack sequence is pretty solid. One of the
Yes.
things the one part of the movie I do genuinely love is when they're all, like the families working at the food stand, people are just kind of picnicking out on the riverbank, and then
Yep.
people just little by little start to notice this monster hanging there, and there's not a lot of music to build it up or anything. It's just people are kind of noticing, and I was like, I like that actually. I think that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
It almost feels very, organic. I like that. So you have that happen, and then the monster attacks. A bunch of people get caught or killed, and then they go to the shelter. I hate the family's reaction when they're all mourning. It's oddly comedic to the point of feeling kind of
It,
tasteless. Um,
is that a South Korean thing? Maybe I feel
I
like that
don't
was because I
know.
know
I've
because I
seen a
knew
lot
that
of South
cult.
Korean movies. I've never
Yeah,
seen
I've
a
never seen
reaction
this
like that
before either.
before.
I know.
Is your aunt? Hansel, thanks to you, we're all together. Oh, finally.
I know. I
I've
feel like
never
that
seen a
was
reaction like that.
that reaction is very common in like Africa. This is one of the reasons they have like the Ebola problem and stuff, because Ebola is like one of those diseases that's so highly contagious to like physical contact and stuff, but it burns itself out so quickly. But they have this sort of very exaggerated mourning and touching the body type of process that felt more like it felt extremely misplaced. And I'm with you. I've seen, I think you've watched more Korean movies than I have. However, I was like, this feels like you're mocking people that are mourning. Is how I felt. Like,
did.
what am I supposed to take from this? What is?
Actually,
And why is no one else? Yeah.
I had pretty close friends who were South Korean around the time I saw this, and even they were like, okay, I was like, I just kind of looked at them and they were like, we don't do that.
It was
like,
weird.
But there was that, and then he gets the phone call. I think around the next day, and then they escape. Their escape sequence, I think, is terrible because it's done way too comedically. And
Do you think that's the next day? The escape is like, so I think that, so
the escape,
attack
I would
day
think, has to be
right.
I would think it'd be very odd if it was the next day because it would take some time to, because they organized this.
They organized it, right? He called the taxi people, and so you got the attack day.
That I'm like, I don't know how you all put
attack
that
day,
together,
quarantine, hospital quarantine day 1, at least day 2 of escaping hospital. This little girl's been down there for now 4 days.
And
right?
then the weird one is, so they escape. They attempt to go after it. The father, the older father, dies, and then the little girl's father gets taken back while his brother and sister, I guess, they escape. And then after they cut away from that, everyone's back out on the streets and released. And I'm like, okay, is that just another day, or is that days later? How long?
I know how long has it taken for everyone to kind of pretend that nothing is wrong with the world again? It's a huge problem in this
tonal
movie.
Shift that I'm like when I initially saw it, I was like, is this like weeks later? I mean, what just happened? It feels like it's been a long time because the environment just completely shifted to where everyone's just outside walking around with masks, and I was like, oh, well, how long has it been since this happened? Because the little girl, like you said, is still alive. It's like, is she not? I mean, they basically bring up that they're really hungry, but I was like, how are they not starved to death at this point?
Well, how does she not have somewhere else to go? Like, so, I mean, I guess she could be collecting water in some way. We don't see her actually doing things that are smart. We don't see her actually like collecting water to drink. We don't see her trying to follow the pipe to get away from the monster.
We do see one scene where she collects water dripping and takes a little sips, but they're little tiny sips. They're not nearly enough to survive on.
Right. So that timeline issue and all of this sort of like gets all jumbly mumble, and so again, we're just gonna keep piling on. Go to the next pylon. You mentioned it briefly. They were going to do it anyway, but then the main character, the blonde guy, he overhears the fact that the virus is fake, and they're going to do a lobotomy. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they're going to get out of a reason to do a lobotomy. I was thinking maybe the freaking creature attacks the quarantine. No, they perform a lobotomy. They literally drill a hole in this dude's head. He's already a numbnut. And
which they're the movie explanation, which, boy, this creates a massive convenience.
It's so retarded.
His father,
yes,
tells the brother and sister while they're falling asleep, which I did not like that scene at all.
It was so retarded.
Because they're putting him down, and he's kind of scolding them for doing it, and he tells them this story about their brother seeming to be really sharp when he's young and then didn't get enough protein, blah, 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 and that may be why he's kind of slow or whatever. And then when he gets lobotomized, that's the justification for it really not having an effect on him. And I was like,
I don't understand
how that works.
None of this made any sense. It didn't make sense that he was, quote, smart as a 2-year-old, and people would ask him for directions. Then he didn't get nutrition, and that's somehow why he'll nod off, even to the point like they make a comment like a chicken that falls. It's like, what? And doesn't make any excuse for him being a bad dad or whatever. We excuse everything he's done because of that, and then they're going to do a lobotomy. They actually do a lobotomy. But he's not phased. He remembers who his daughter, his family are. He remembers what his mission is. He remembers the monster. He knows where he's supposed to go. It's like, that's the most inefficient lobotomy, Gourd, that I've ever heard or seen of.
It's an inefficient lobotomy.
It made him actually more efficient, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
And it's an inefficient lobotomy mixed with an inefficient reason for it not to affect him. And I was like, wow, that feels pretty ham-fisted. Okay, then. And like his escape from that facility is really bizarre, because I'm like, because he's got like this he's got a needle basically with his blood in it, saying that he's going to infect this nurse he takes hostage, and I'm like, yeah, but there's no virus, so what would you even infect her with? I mean, maybe they still think there's one, but there's a ton of people at this facility he's doing this with. I'm like, surely one of them knows the virus thing is bullcrap. And But even if they did, I mean, it's done in such a way it's like they would totally be able to stop him. This is really, really
it was
stupid.
bad. It was bad. So let me just run through some of the stupid. Let you comment along the way. I actually think that whatever story we're trying to get out of the little girl, it's just dumb. I feel like she's just allegedly just sitting around this pipe, presumably collecting some water, maybe some snacks from people's jackets, I guess. And then she eventually starts stripping them down, tying their cloth together for this escape plan. And at the end, she's just sacrificing herself for okay, these random kids. We didn't even mention the random kids that show up, these people that show up. So that
Well, yeah, there's a reason for that. The movie barely does either, and
yeah,
it's a
so
major plot point. Oddly,
so the movie makes a complete like distracted squirrel moment where we're going with this family, we're hunting this monster, we're in this dark moment of all this tension, and then they shoot at something else, and you realize there's people there. And then we forget about hunting the monster for a while because now we're going to follow these people for a while. And you're like, what is happening in this movie? And then later, because the creature gets these people and drops this one little boy in there where he survives. Now it's about them. And her old story arc is that she's going to ends up sacrificing herself for this kid who ends up being part of the family moving forward.
Which
I
if they
still
had
don't.
developed that, I would have liked.
I guess
a lot more, but it's like they introduce him and his brother, and within a couple of minutes they get captured, and then the older brother dies. And I guess the idea is like when the monster's transporting them, basically, I guess in not necessarily in his stomach, probably its throat. It probably suffocates him, and I'm like, okay, that's plausible. I'm fine with that. But the little boy survives. And then she's kind of taking care of him, and I'm like, okay, you can do something with this. That could be interesting. But ultimately, like you said, she ends up dying for his sake. So this is this really tragic thing. And I'm like, this movie is so tonally inconsistent because it shifts back and forth between trying to be really highly comedic, like slapstick comedic at times. Like I said, the escape sequence from the quarantine is really slapstick. And I'm like, you're bouncing between tones so much that her death, if you had just taken yourself seriously, this death would actually feel very meaningful and really, really sad. Ultimately, it ends up feeling very out of place, very unnecessary. The little boy as a character isn't developed nearly enough to where he ultimately gets adopted by the father. And I'm like, that doesn't resonate whatsoever. It just makes the movie feel highly unsatisfying because they didn't save her. And I was like, that kind of really sucks. So, yeah, I did not like what they did at all with that.
Yeah, the daughter, again, this goes back to the daughter and the pipe, such a missed opportunity to have these cutaways with all these other weird distracting things that we're doing, wasting our time with the quarantine stuff, which we didn't need to have, and instead having her trying to figure out how to get out of this pipe. So let's say the pipe is, she can't get her hand through this pipe or something, and that the little boy might be useful because they set up the fact that they're thieves, then they're homeless. And it's only there so we could have social commentary about how it's okay to steal because you don't have food. And there's this weird little side journey that Bong takes us on for this little moment that none of this is relevant to the story. We don't care about any of that. I was completely distracted. I thought, I'm entering a completely different movie now is what was happening. I was like, the tone's different. Everything was different. So I thought all of that was total garbage. I still don't really understand what they were trying to accomplish.
Well,
Then
I'll tell you what I think is the big, because you brought up earlier, it's like the characters do more or less have arcs. I agree. What the movie does really badly is relationships. Everyone's individual arc, and like we brought up earlier, some of them are very, very thin. There's almost like, other than the main, like the older father in the way he connects with his kids somewhat, there are really no relationships that get developed. It's like the one brother hates the other brother because he's such a bumbling idiot. They don't really resolve that. The girl who's the archer, they don't really resolve. There's no relational aspect with her and the others. There's no real coming together moment as a family, I guess, other than when they're mourning the little girl, and that's not even a come together moment. It's just a moment with the family.
Nope.
There is none of the relationships have any sense of satisfaction to them whatsoever.
It was rough. And to make it worse, so this is an unlikable character. He's like the college kid who feels like he's entitled to a job and life and whatever. and he sneaks into this. So again, we have to distract with the story because of the quarantine stuff and the fallout from the quarantine stuff is now they're all wanted. And you end up with this guy who's basically lying to him, but he's an alcoholic, right? So at the end of the movie, the story arc is he uses his alcoholism to have all this booze and this homeless guy that's got some booze, and they make Molotov cocktails to throw onto the beast at the end of the movie. And I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. I mean, he's doing something, and he may have some purpose, and I still don't really care, and I still don't feel like he's remotely a decent human being. So I say arc, meaning at least something is actually happening with the character. Like the character is clearly not going to be the same at the end of the movie that he was at the beginning,
Right.
but I still don't really care. And I still
Yeah.
am not. Again, if you don't have subtitles, and maybe it's different in Korean, I will totally give you that. But whatever these subtitles they gave us, I'm not sure I knew his name.
Oh, I
And I
don't
don't
remember his name.
yeah, because there's not, like you said, relationship conversations where we have normal conversations to talk and have them engaged. And oh man, we skipped one of the most retarded moments in the entire movie. Oh my gosh, it was so stupid. So they are trying to sneak past the quarantine area
Oh.
after they escape the hospital quarantine. So they're in this truck. It's supposed to be a quarantine team, and they put on these suits. Now, the blonde guy, the main guy, is the most wanted of any human right now because he's got this blonde hair. They leave him in the front seat. They leave him where everyone could pull down your mask. And this brother, being a complete a-hole, is just lecturing everyone from the back row. He's like lecturing the dad, how much money he spent, it's stupid, and the map. And oh, by the way, I guess always when the daughter does at least have one line because she talks about the photocopy being on the paper. But she has like 5 lines in the whole movie, maybe. It makes no sense why the brother isn't trying to do something useful. Dad, you sit in the back seat, I'll drive. No, you brother, you can't be up here. My sister's, it's come there. No, things just happen and things just work out because, and it's played for a gag because they give away the coin jar that the blonde guy was saving up money. It was like a setup early in the movie, and it's played for like a laugh. So I guess to the Korean audience it was funny. For me, I was like, yeah, it's still retarded. It was still dumb.
I don't even remember why they went in. I've watched this movie 3 times. I don't remember why they broke into there. I can't even remember why they.
Well, they're supposed to be trying to get to where the monster. So again, I think that what they were trying to do poorly was have that there is some sort of quarantine barrier where you have to be only the suited people are in this area. However, it's all contradicted at the end of the movie when you have all these protests and people walking around and the monster.
That's why it's undermined because I'm like why I'm like I don't.
That's why it makes no sense
because how much time has happened. What kind of time frame this is happening in?
100%. So yeah, it's just a mess. It's an absolute debacle. I'm sorry. And then the archer, and it makes no sense why someone would get to the Olympics and then like she doesn't take her shot, so she ends up with a bronze medal. She just lets the timer run out. Makes no sense, by the way, that even happens.
They don't really do anything with it either.
Mm-mm.
This idea that she hesitates in the moments, I was like, okay, you can do something with that. They don't.
Yeah, but she doesn't hesitate. The first time she has a shot to take the monster, the brother knocks it out of her hand or something like that. Like, stop it, just whatever. And then at the end of the movie, there's no like take your shot moment. Like the brother should have just said, take your shot. You know what I mean? Like something. It happens and it saves the day. So yes, there's a story arc in the sense that she does take the shot. Good on her.
The thing that's weird is she does have, like you said, she has a moment, but it's like her and her brother are like they haven't planned this. They're operating independently. They don't even necessarily realize the other is there. So like I said, there's no relational aspect to what's happening. I'm like, ugh, okay.
It's worse than all that. You know why? The homeless guy is actually the one that saves the day.
Yes,
the homeless because Molotov. Yeah, just so we're clear. There's a homeless guy that comes along with the drunk guy. The drunk guy gets a homeless guy. He takes him in the cab or whatever. The drunk guy is like taking the gasoline, putting it in these booze bottles, right? They're doing the liquor bottles. And he can't throw Molotov cock. He can't hit nothing. He's literally hitting the side of the bridge. It's so retarded that he could throw that many times and miss.
Huge. It shouldn't be that hard to hit.
It's completely insane. But it stops moving, and this homeless guy starts dumping all the fuel and stuff on it. Which, by the way, the monster's just like they're lapping it up. Again, makes no sense why the monster would be doing that.
Yeah,
you would think that it would burn or not taste right. Just saying, it's an animal that's under the water. It wouldn't be like consuming
and
fuel.
Their setup for it is like there's one scene where you see it out in the rain, drinking up the rain that way, and I'm like, so it
Yeah.
just does that for any liquid? Okay. But
Makes
like you
no
said, like the
sense.
homeless guy comes out of
Yeah.
nowhere, has climbed up onto these rafters,
Yep. How to be in the
and
right place at the
just
right time with the gallon of
you don't even
fuel
see
and
him
yep.
notice like the guy throwing the
Nope.
cocktails and saying, "Oh, I can help him." There's
Nope.
nothing. There's no setup to it. He just shows up and starts dumping gasoline. It's like, okay.
Yeah, you feel like it was supposed to be they were going to use the Molotov cocktails, throw them around the beast to kind of get him to go in a certain area, and then this guy would do his thing. And if that was something said in Korean, it's not translated for us at home. We didn't get it. Just so you know. I'm sorry if anybody at home are putting their headcanon into this movie. Makes no sense. No one's a hero. The homeless guy's a hero. It's so retarded.
Yeah, the cause and effect is just it's not there. It's just
No.
not there. And I'm
Yep.
sorry, I don't
Yep.
care. It's like, oh, I'm sorry if that's a Korean thing, which I don't think it is. I've seen Korean movies and they often do have good cause and effect. This
Yeah.
one doesn't.
Yeah. So all in all, I am still just shocked. I have to be honest. I gotta be honest. In some ways, this is worse than Parasite because I felt like
Oh, I think
Parasite
this
was.
is way worse than Parasite.
Yeah. So with Parasite, I feel like it was very clear what the social commentary was right. It's very clear on what he's going for. It's much more digestible. I can completely disagree with it and think he's wrong and think he's inconsistent and have my problems with Parasite because I don't think it's nearly as good as people say it is. That's all
Right.
fine. This feels like a monster movie that's suddenly bogged down by someone who didn't just want to only make a monster movie. He's so full of himself that he had to put in all these other crazy elements, and no one's in the room telling him, "You don't even need all this. Like, just do this and this and this." And then he's so arrogant that he was like, "Yeah, but I'm a big fan of Alien, the Thing, and yeah, but that's not what you're doing anymore. You're writing like." These two people are talking about how it's okay to steal because of they're hungry, and you're wasting time with random characters in the sewer, and you're just this movie is a cluster. And I am so sorry to people that just love this movie. I'm totally not understanding a 93% or so on Rotten Tomatoes, weighted scores. I think I've heard people that are very renowned love and praise this movie.
Oh yeah.
It is blasphemous. Like what this is Lake Placid level for me. This is like Lake
If
Placid
that.
with a bunch
If
of social
that.
commentary. Like Lake Placid at least has it. Lake Placid appears to be aware of what it is. You know what I mean?
Well,
I
and
get it.
I mean, when I think of various monster movies that have come out, since Jaws, since like I said, this is in many critics' opinion the best. Like, there's literally a quote on the DVD Blu-ray, best
Oh my
monster movie
gosh.
since Jaws, and I'm like, no, this isn't as good as Tremors. This isn't as
Ugh.
I don't think it's as good as Cloverfield. Heck,
No.
I think Pacific Rim is considerably better.
Yeah, that's
I
true
think
too.
There's a lot of monster movies way better than this. I don't think this is a good movie. And so, Parasite has issues. I still would say overall it's good. I don't think it's great, but I think it's
Look,
good.
I think Meg has a better movie than this. Sorry to you guys to think it's yes, it's over the top, and yes, it's retarded, and it's dumb, and you know what? It still makes more sense than this. It plays fast and loose with its rules that make more sense than this movie did.
Like
this movie is
it has the skeleton of a good movie in it.
That's correct.
The ideas are there.
Yep.
It's just the way it occurs is really poor.
Tons of extra stuff we don't need. It's so maybe that's what the first thing I do is we would start by editing this movie down. We just don't need so much of it. It's almost 2 hours. It's 119 with credits.
It's like right under 2 hours.
That's crazy. We definitely have 20 or 30 minutes we don't even need. Lean into being a monster movie first and foremost with some of this other stuff.
Spend that time developing the relationships so the accomplishments feel meaningful, so the deaths feel meaningful. Because that's the thing. It's like there's two rather major character deaths. There's two major character deaths and a fake out of one of the same ones, and none of them really. I mean, the first one sort of hits because it's at the beginning and you're just empathizing with the notion of it, but then when you get to the two major character deaths, you're like, I haven't really grown close to this family because they don't feel like a family. They just feel like random people because we don't get to know their dynamic.
The dad one hits at least a little bit because you feel like he's rallied them together to go on this mission. And the fact that the blind guy lets himself get caught and the fact that they all disband, and then you have some sort of time jump. it just loses all the momentum that could have built upon the dad's sacrifice, and we get distracted by the random people, this little kid and whatever. It's just, this movie is a complete mess. So I'll let you score. You score way harder than I do, so it will probably still be higher than yours. But go ahead, and what is your score? How do you kind of rate this movie?
Yeah, I thought about this a good amount yesterday because I did a little bit of a write up on Criticals. This is one of those movies that, now that my channel's getting underway, it's possible I'll tackle this because I love talking movies that I think are over and underrated. I Like I said, I thought a lot about this because I was like, I've never enjoyed this, and my lack of enjoyment is very strong for movies that I think are overrated. So I was like, I'm gonna try not to color it with that frustration, but I do think this is a bad film, and talking about it has kind of reaffirmed that because you found some things that even I didn't fully consider. So
Right.
I think I would rate this like a 3.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
a bad film.
It's a little more harsh than me, but I'm struggling to get to 2.5, folks, because 2.5 is still, you should kind of go see it. That's like a 5. This is a bad movie. Look, I'm admitting that the Meg is better, and I say that meaning, like, when the dog is still alive, you kind of laugh. You kind of have the humor that you actually need. What is the humor in this? Like, the silliness of the people surviving, not surviving, doing their motivations, having, it's all bad, and it's Tremors is a way superior movie than this. I mean,
Oh,
Tremors
yeah.
is extremely good compared to Cloverfield. I'm kind of mid on, and it's way worse than Cloverfield.
Yeah, Cloverfield's a mid movie. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can't go above a 2 out of 5. I just can't. There's too many things I've given a 2.5 to that are better. I'm sorry. This is a movie. I have no desire to sit through this again. There's nothing really that interesting about it. The setup was all really the only thing that was really, like you said, the beach attack and some of those elements were fine. And the design of the creature is the best thing about this movie. That's it. Everything else, the gap between that being good and everything else is so far. I'm still shocked that something of his is so much massively overrated than even Parasite. I always thought Parasite was the one. That's the one that everyone won an Oscar. It's like, oh, there's nothing that's going to be as overrated as that experience. I figured I just kind of chalked it up as, that's the most, most of his other stuff is really good. So he's getting like bonus points for Parasite. It's kind of how I usually feel with that. That's usually the formula, folks.
Yeah.
No.
Like, I feel like this movie, because it's, like I said, it has innovative ideas, and it's shot very nicely. It's a very...
He's a good tactician.
Yeah, it's
in
the
some
tactician
ways
behind it is good, but
Yeah.
everything else about it, storytelling, characters, relationships, the cause and effect, it's pretty, like, it's not so bad as to where it's utterly broken. It's just, it never seems to ever find its footing.
Agreed. And I think it gets bonus points in some people's minds because it's such a low budget movie. It's just, South Korean. So I think that's why some of the comparisons to Godzilla -1 or whatever kind of, I think this is just, I think this movie is writing a whole lot of people's headcanon on things that they see in this movie that aren't actually on screen. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because when I watch it on screen, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. It's just terrible. Movie makes no sense logically. And it should just try to stay a dumb monster movie, and it would have been a whole lot better movie. And I don't understand why they didn't do that. But I'm glad I watched it in the sense of, at least I have some sort of context of this movie. But I'm very sad and distraught inside that it turned out to be this bad. I actually wanted to do this with you, man, because I thought it was going to be good and solid. So I'm actually quite let down.
I was like, is this his first time watching it? Because
it is definitely my first time watching
it. I had seen it, and I was like, and here's the thing. It had been several years. I thought maybe there's a chance I'm going to like it this time. I hope I like it this time. But there was those other 2 times that I was, and granted, I was far less critical back when I watched the other 2 times. I thought, there's a chance I'm going to appreciate this more. Nope.
I thought you had said it was good too. I thought you had kind of put it in a positive light. So I was like, oh yeah, we'll just do that. I'll put it on the list and just have it out there. And then when you said you could do something, I said, yeah, we'll put that. I might have
framed it as having a good reputation.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
And because I kept watching it, and as these different plot points were just, I mean, like there are gaping holes of issues in this movie. I was like, there is no way Gourd likes this movie. There is no way he's looking past this. I mean, maybe little nuances bother me more, or whatever. That's all normal human stuff. That's gets it. That's the normal stuff. But when you get down to like being a pretty good critic, we're pretty solid. We don't usually miss a line radically. Usually it's about certain things matter to you more than other, that kind of thing. This is a mess. This is a mess. So yeah, we will welcome all the hot, all the feedback. Give me all the hate now. Tell me how I'm such a moron. All the down, all the dislikes. Throw my percentages, because I don't usually have. I do get low percentages, but this is why I don't understand people who do the hate watching only type videos, or it's just a hot, because your percentages on dislike, it's so through the roof. People are always just telling you you're an idiot when they have no substance, but that's what they do. You get bombarded with that. So like, this is probably going to be one like that. This is absolutely a dumpster fire. Absolutely a dumpster fire movie. One of the most overrated.
I'm sorry, internet. We're not with you on this one.
Yeah, this is one of the most overrated horror monster movies I've ever seen, because I actually thought
I was thinking about what are like the most overrated movies of the 21st century. This would be in my like top 5 probably of that list.
I'm asking the AI what are the most overrated horror movies. What is most overrated horror movies? Top of the list. Let's see what this list says.
Halloween.
Oh, no, don't go there. Silence of the Lambs, Saw, Rosemary's Baby, Blair Witch. Now, Blair Witch, I can give it to you, but that's a different... So the problem with Blair Witch was if you didn't live through Blair Witch, you don't understand the context of it. But yeah, there's no story in Blair Witch. Like, I get it.
Yeah, Blair Witch, I'm okay. Silence of the Lambs, that's ridiculous. That's a great film.
Cloverfield, Paranormal Activity, I've never seen. Never seen Cabin Fever. I don't know what that one is.
I mean, Paranormal Activity, I don't feel like that's overrated. I think people know what that is. It's like, it's fine. Yeah. It's a fine little found footage movie.
Yeah, someone hating on Hannibal as well. Dawn of the Dead. Well, I kind of agree with Dawn of the Dead. There are people who just really love Dawn of the Dead. I will say it's probably maybe his best movie, but it's still a derivative crap. Like, he's stopped pretending that Zack Snyder's a good filmmaker.
Like, I do really like Dawn of the Dead. If we're talking George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
No, this is the Zack Snyder one being overrated. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah. That's why I said it's
I've watched it.
There's a whole bunch that I haven't watched a lot of these, like The Ring and The Grudge and stuff like that. I haven't watched Final Destination. The first Final Destination is very overrated. I agree with that. Because this last one was actually maybe the best one. This last one was the best one of the franchise.
If the American Grudge is rated as anything other than trash, then it's overrated because that's a bad movie.
Yeah.
Ju-on's good. Ju-on's quite creepy, but the American version.
Excuse me. Here's another person's list. No, I don't want to support you with your ads. Yeah, Blair Witch is at the list. Let's see what's next. I don't know what that is.
People cite Blair Witch as being highly overrated.
Oh, Quiet Place is on there. That makes sense.
I totally agree with that.
Ooh, they don't like Split. That's interesting.
I think Split's pretty good.
I think Split's pretty solid than what most people think about. I don't think people think it's much better than they say it is.
Yeah, I think most people agree that's a good movie. Not a great movie.
I think it's just I think it's solid. Yeah, Martyrs. Never heard of that.
I've heard of it. I've heard it's pretty rough. I've never heard it's overrated. But
yeah, Black Phone. I don't get an overrated vibe from Black Phone. I get like it's pretty much what people expect. Now, some people have it rated really high. That would be ridiculous. It's just kind of.
I mean, there are a lot of horror movies coming out these days that get overrated because I think the standard for what is a good horror movie has really dropped.
This would be one I agree with because I heard stuff about it that makes me know I will not like it. It's called Midsummer.
Yeah, Midsummer is it's Ari Aster's follow-up to Hereditary, which I think Hereditary is one of the best horror movies to come out in a really long time, but Midsummer it's a really good idea. There are parts of it that are really good, but gosh, it takes forever to get moving. Like, the first hour is an absolute slog.
Yeah, I'm not watching it. You're not helping the situation.
Yeah, but it's one of those movies where I'm like, watch it if you want. I can't recommend it.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. I think that the reputation's pretty solid to what it is. I don't think anybody out there is like.
That might be why they think it's overrated, because it has a good reputation, I guess.
Oh, I think it's okay. I mean, I don't think it's. Yeah, anyway, I'm confused. And there's one I don't know called Don't Look Now. It's a 1973 movie.
Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie. That's a pretty famous one. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's great.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one. I haven't seen that one though. So, yeah, this would be among those. This one is way more overrated than any of those by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, by far. And I will defend. I will defend Halloween in particular. I will defend that, like Blair Witch. Like there's a time and a context, like Psycho.
Halloween's a movie where I think it's both properly and overrated at the same time. Weirdly, because I'm like, okay, I completely get why it's iconic. I think
Yeah.
the design of it's great. I think on a technical level, it's kind of brilliant. I think the music's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just I get annoyed because I think people overlook that storytelling wise, it's not very good.
No, I don't think if anyone's out there touting those slasher movies as being like that. I have someone I know who just thinks Freddy's the end all be all. Like Freddy's the one, and I'm like, oh my god, dear Lord, please help me. Like,
like my annoyance with Halloween more has to do with the fact that, like The Thing, it's a John Carpenter movie, and I don't like those being put side by side because The Thing is a genuinely and objectively masterful horror film.
Yeah, it's funny how you say that because people that just
Halloween
hate The
in
Thing.
The same conversation beyond the fact that they're both John Carpenter. And
Well,
anybody who hates The Thing hates life.
Yeah, but I think that I'll make my case, and we'll close on this. I'll make my case because I have them all in this sort of like the pantheon of horror, and that's because of Halloween. It took some random concepts of slasher like Psycho and Texas Chainsaw, and it made the boogeyman and all that slasher concepts like a phenomenon. It was, I mean, it was such, I grew up in a world where that was a thing. Like, obviously, we have Friday the 13th and Freddy and whatever, but there's so much of it. It's because of Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween's legacy is absolutely stellar.
And then The Thing, which I put The Thing and American Werewolf London, because I don't want to exclude Rick Baker or Rob Bottin in this sort of special effects sort of phenomenon of that era, because they are the ones that kind of, Stan Winston was more tactician. He was more, like the like the Terminator model and that kind of thing. But these guys were the ones figuring out how to like blend mechanics with bubbling flesh and whatever. So I put the two of them in this same group in these two films. And I watch those three every single year, all the time. Those are the three I watch: The Thing, Halloween, and American Werewolf. Because of that, they're like these foundational things. And there are others that come along. See, Blair Witch for me, I think didn't really, because we didn't really keep with found footage movies, and we didn't keep with the Uber. Like, it got Saw made, and so I guess maybe Saw would count for something. I think Scream is more influential than those because Scream kind of brought horror back to
Scream
market again.
Kind of took the slasher concept and did things with it I always had wanted. Like, I have a big frustration with slasher movies just in general because my biggest issue with them is none of them seem to take themselves seriously enough when there's a lot that could be mined from doing so. Scream didn't take it overly seriously, but told a really good story while not betraying that typical concept of the genre. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's a really good one. And, it was like, I mean, for me, it's like, I think it does some things really, really well. Granted, I think people give it credit for the meta conversation it creates a little much, like it started that, and I'm like, well, no, actually, Last Action Hero did that first, but
but I think this
better,
but I think it's the genre part, right? Because it spawned Kevin Williamson. It gave we got the Halloween resurgence again, and then you got other stuff that come. I think Scream gets all the credit for that. Last Action Hero just didn't really get legs it deserved. Just it's one of those. A lot of people, I'd be shocked, have seen it. There's a whole bunch of people who've never even seen it. It just did not land right. So.
I watched it very quickly because I was a big Arnold Schwarzenegger kid, and it's the weird movie connection. It's like Last Action Hero introduced me to my all-time favorite movie because they reference Amadeus in it, and I was like, I wonder what Amadeus is. And for years I wondered, and when I finally saw it, I was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Thank you, Last Action Hero.
Gotcha. Well, you can't get any better than connect those dotted lines, folks. So we'll end with that. So Gourd is here. Papa Pumpkin is the name of the channel. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the new channel, everything that's going on over there. Encourage him to do more commentary and to do more of these overrated, underrated. I think this is the sweet spot for sure. I love the hot take, overrated, underrated too, by the way. So we'll definitely do and connect again. So you guys will see us back together doing this. But hopefully you're enjoying Popstoberfest, some different Halloween horror, scary, spooky movies that we're putting together, having a conversation with you guys. And cue up those comments. Let me know how crazy you think we are about The Host, because but either way, you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. I am Pops.